Well, we're going to talk a little bit about some emerging weed issues today. I'm Brad Brummond of the Walsh County Extension Agent. I've been there for about 30 years up in Park River. Going on 41 years. Traci, she has a couple years less than I do.
I'm in my first year, almost finishing out my first year in Nelson County.
So we're probably we're gonna focus on some weeds that, you know what, that come into Walsh County and are starting to be issues in Walsh County. I'm hoping you don't have these weeds, we do. I know you have a couple of them, but the early Walsh period, big grass, maybe not. But you need to know what these weeds look like. You need to know how they grow. You need to know what works on them. Because there's two reasons weeds made the slides today. First reason is they become resistant. The second reason is, like especially with the biennial wormwood and the spin grass, they just don't, unless you specifically target these weeds, you're probably not going to get them. You gotta tailor your herbicide control to these weeds, or most likely you're going to miss them. Because there's a lot of products that we generally use in our production system that don't work on these weeds. So, maybe.
Our first one we have is narrowleaf hawksbeard. It's one that's been very problematic in driving fields in Walsh County. It's extremely difficult to control in pulse crops.
If you look at this plant, and this is a plant they call the false dandelion, okay? If you drive by these and you don't take a close look at these, you can say, well, like dandelions. What's the difference between a dandelion and a narrowleaf hawksbeard?
We produce a stem on our hospital.
Right. The other thing is, how many flowers do you see in that plant? Multiple. I've got an early hawksbeard stem in the backside of Lagein Dam. Some of those plants get 10 or 12 flowers. Dandelion has only had one flower, one head. Going straight up. So if you see that bush, and like Jeff says, and they have the stalks and the stems on these plants. The other thing is it's a single rooted. You pull it up and it pulls real easily. We started out trying to mow these things on the backside of Lagein Dam. Forget about that. That just encourages it. And you can't get your mower going up and get this weed. And God help you if it gets in the riprap of Lagein Dam. We're still pulling weeds out of Lagein Dam. Now I've got, my office sits about 3 or 4 miles from this infestation. Now I got another block because it blows. It's got a really small seed, and it's got a parachute like a dandelion, and it floats in the wind. And where I found this weed has been, I think it's come in with the geese, because originally wherever I found this weed, it's been around sloughs, it's been in dams, it's been in local areas where geese and ducks congregate. So that would be the first place I would look. If you see something yellow out in your pinto bean fields, go out and have a look. We found a field, we found it land judging actually, white in the back, but nobody would ever see this. We were in the middle of nowhere and we had to use a 4-wheel pickup to get here. So if we hadn't stumbled on that land judging, the back guy would have really had a mess. He had about 2 acres that were pretty yellow. And if this thing goes to seed, next year it'll be solved. You got a good standard. It's a real problem out in the lentils out in Wilson and Minot area. It's very, very hard to control. The best way to control this thing is in the fall. And I've got some handouts over here that talk about some of the products. The problem with weed control in the fall is that this weed keeps emerging, and keeps emerging, and keeps emerging. So if you use glyphosate on it, yeah, you can get 1 or 2 flushes. You get that 3rd or 4th back flush, and it keeps coming, and it keeps coming. The other thing I found with this weed is, and I've been watching these patches, this weed is probably one of the first weeds to green up in the spring. at least from my observation. So it gets a head start. It can be fairly aggressive. It does like disturbed areas. It doesn't like a lot of competition. This is not a weed, I think, that should be really problematic in wheat. But if you're growing pinto beans or soybeans or something like that, I think this is where it fits. Where I found this to be a problem again has been like in pinto bean fields. So, but it's here, and it shows no sign of going away because I've been walking and I'm driving in this area that I know it's in, trying to get it out of there for 4 years. Quite frankly, I think I'm losing the battle. But that's what we got with the gnarly boxbeard. Kind of a pretty little plant. If you want a flower that's going to flower all summer and you don't have to take care of it, you can put that in the flower garden. But thinking that might not be a good move. Yeah.
Next we have stink grass. Looks like a short, kind of stinted grass. That kind of looks like Kentucky bluegrass. It is a very distinctive smell when you crush it between your fingers. Most often found in spring wheat. If there's enough that horses have access to, it'll be poisonous to them. So kind of want to control that. It's weed of the year in 2019, and a couple things you can control at its liberty. Roundup, sure too, is like cracks.
And this thing is terrible in Bruce County.
Is it?
It's not just in wheat, it's in soybeans.
It really is everything?
Soybeans, dry beans, wheat, it's all over the place. It's very bad.
Thrives
It's
in
not
dry
a
conditions.
good situation.
The only place that I really find in Walsh County is wheat, but I suppose that's
You'll get it in your pinto.
It's
It's not good.
if you think you have snake grass, just crush it between your fingers. It smells like really gay old baby mom. Have you ever had babies? That's not a pleasant smell. You'll never forget it if you crush it. It'll hang on your fingers for a long time. Now, if you look at some of the products that get it, this is what's weed of the year in 2019. According to this, Tacoma it had about 95%, 97% control. Beyond at 70%, Olympus 2, Everest 45% control. If you're going after it with Everest, this ain't working for you. What do they use it on your way? Everything.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
You're gonna have to use the assured, you're gonna have to use glyphosate.
Yep.
It's timely, it's a late germinator too, so with multiple flushes and it hides below the canopy because it's lower growing, and so you have to use targeted herbicide applications. And you may have to go back to some of the, the glue and the prowls and that kind of stuff. I don't know how effective those are, but those are potential options.
According to this, Liberty was 99% effective, around 95. Sure to again 95. So
Liberty's going to have to be applied on very small things.
it's got to be small.
What?
All right.
Next one. Annual wormwood, bad weed and dry beans. It has a great ability to escape some of the broadleaf herbicides. Page 115 and 119 of the weed control guide. There's Wide Match, Bristow, Sharpen, Vertus, Ziduapro.
This is one of those weeds that that if you don't target this weed, it's not working for you. You saw when your treff lands, a lot of your commonly used soybean products are going to give up on you on buying a wormwood. This is a weed that I rarely see on Eastern Park or Western Park River. You see buying wormwood. The other interesting thing that when I was doing some reading on this plant, actually biennial wormwood is non-annual. It is non-annual. When they first classified this weed, they called it biennial wormwood. And by the way, biennial wormwood has not been up here all that long. Since maybe the turn of the century. 2000s is when it got, when Al Dexter started planting it up here in my beef fields. So, but it grows straight up. I call it the Walsh County Christmas tree. grow straight up, about 3-4 feet tall, have really bushy stem to it.
Difficult to identify as a seed and to
Yes.
get common ragweed.
Yes. And the difference between common ragweed, there's a couple differences in my mind in a really easy spot. Number one, vinyl wormwood grows straight up off the main stem. Ragweed is a bushy and branches more. If you look at the leaves on vinyl wormwood are much more serrated, and they don't have the rounded shape to it. And I can swap vinyl wormwood going down the road $50,000. I don't know what that is. But this is another weed that will germinate all summer. It really gets going in June. At least in Walsh County it does. But it's about the time the beans are just starting to canopy gets going and gets up above the crop.
And the only options we got in driving person are Basset grain plus MSO, plus a nitrogen source. Spray the small plants multiple times.
You gotta be
highway.
under 3 inches, but smaller better. And again, the most frustrating part about that weed is it keeps coming and keeps coming and keeps coming. And if you spray it too tall, what'll happen is it'll grow up and it can't, and it'll come. I see herbicide failure in vinyl wormwood all the time. So this is one that this is a weed you have to target. This is a weed you have to target. Now, I don't know what your experience with Bassgram is, but Bassgram in that Warsaw anywhere is starting to lag on us. Yeah, because I don't know what else to do.
There's nothing else.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of those
Other
weeds.
than the trees you're putting up there.
Yeah, those are pre's, yeah. And I think you need to go with combo on these products, on this weed. And go to some other things that we do. It doesn't tend, at least from my observation, unless you've got a really hard stand, it really doesn't grow in the wheat field, at least from my observation. I don't know what
Yeah,
yours
that's not a good.
but it really competes with soybeans and dry beans.
That has a pretty thick stain.
You get a good patch of wormwood, you won't have soybeans.
Oats, starting to become resistant to many of our group 1 and 2 herbicides. Start doing a weed screen, you can figure out what's not working. There's some highly resistant wild oats in the Lagein area.
Here's the deal that I found. We have, I've got three, I had 3 fields that were screened in the Lagein area. This wild oats is even becoming resistant to slap. It has a high resistance. This one field, I think you need to put it in alfalfa for about 5 years. Because we really have no, if you look at that weed screen that we did with Brian James, there's really nothing we have on the grass. Slack, that's going away. Roundup, I suppose, is still working on it. But how many years can you raise Roundup soybeans, or glyphosate soybeans? The reason I think this got so bad in the Lagein area is because they traditionally go with a dry bean wheat rotation every other year. And they're closing down the rotation, they're getting disease in their dry beans, and they're getting wild oats they can't control in their wheat. And it's a horrible thing. Now, green foxtail is the same way. This is what I would suggest. If you got that problematic field up there, give about 1.5 cups of seed. Bring it into your extension agent. We'll send them off to Brian James on the line out, or he'll be here. And he'll do a weed screen on these fields. You need to know what you got in those fields. Because quite frankly, that Lagein area is just, I don't know what to tell them anymore. And they tell me, we've even been trying harder on those fields, and that, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And part of it, one of the first herbicides that wild oats got. So it's there. The genetics are already out there. So if we're expecting to go get it with Fargo, I don't know if that's the deal.
Corn rotation.
Yep.
You're gonna have to use corn and use glyphosate.
Yep. So that's a tough one. Yeah, this is the other one, the green foxtail. We have the same problem with this one, although this one's not quite so bad. But it's resistance to basically the same type of herbicide. At least in Walsh County, this one seems to be less resistance to our select than Wild Oats does. The other thing you can work on with your green foxtails, you know, if you wanted to grow rye for seed, or if you wanted to get something going in a smother crop, I think that might help you, or a good heavy cover crop would probably hold this thing down a little bit. Again, of course, you've got your Liberty, you've got your glyphosate, but this is basically a long green field again. It's all Lagein, and of course your Wild Oats is a cool season weed, and your green foxtail is a warm season weed. So it just depends upon the crops you're growing. If you're growing corn and soybeans, you're probably going to have green foxtail. If you're going to grow wheat, and your cool season crops, you're probably going to have Wild Oats. So it just depends upon where you go with this weed. But we have axial that we put on this weed, and the green foxtail will get about that tall and it'll head out. You know, he's just that. We don't need that. So, and I tell people is, when I first got to Walsh County, they called it the green yellow foxtail picking grass. I said, no, it's not picking grass. The green foxtail or shell foxtail. You need to know that the green foxtail is way more problematic than you know. You need to be able to spot the difference. Green foxtail is a round stem, yellow foxtail is a flat stem. Green foxtail you can roll like a star. That's a really simple way to do it. And then you got some hairs and other characteristics. But this old cowboy like me, that's how I go after them.
The easiest way to tell them apart is the hairs, because green foxtail has 0 hairs and yellow foxtail has long hairs at the base of the leaf. That's my number one.
Yep.
Because as a yellow foxtail ages, the stem is not as flat.
Yeah. You're right. But the young plants, they have very flat stems, yellows. So that's how I grew up. Okay.
Kochia, probably one of the most herbicide-resistant weeds in Walsh and Nelson counties. Resistant to group 2, 4, 5, and 9 is weed of the year in 2022, and it can be toxic if it's overgrazed.
So I want you to raise your hand and tell me truthfully, how many of you don't have a kochia problem? Every kochia plant in Walsh County, I consider resistant. I don't even go there. So how do you manage your kochia? Have you tried to hate it? Oh, you know what? If you get kochia about that small, it's about 22-24% protein. And you can make it pretty all for it. But I've seen guys, some of my cowmen are going in and hating their kochia food. You run it through your combine, open up. You freeze. Think you gotta go with those? I don't know. This is one that really scares me because.
Yeah, because now we know we got.
Where are we going with this? Yeah, where are we going with this?
We got group 14
Yeah,
now.
yeah, we got group 14 too?
We got group 14 now too. That's what was reported a couple of weeks ago by Brian James. So now AIM doesn't work, and that's going to make Authority, which is our #1 product pre-emergence, not be as effective for the short term. In the long term, will become ineffective. Means we have nothing but liberty. That's it.
Yeah, kochia isn't the deal. I remember back in the, mid '80s when I was out in Mott, when Glean and your sulfurides came out, all you had to do was, they were mixing down with 6 of them, smoking every one of them. They were going in these alkali flats and they were getting 100% control. Not just 1 year, for several years. That ship has left the dock. I don't think none of your LSs were, that I can tell anymore. Starring can work, they find cockroach.
Timing, rate, adjuvant, and whether it's a mixture of pyrosulfatol
How about
in wheat.
How about peroxidils? Are those still working if they're little?
If it's little, it's got.
2 is not 2 inches.
Yeah, so that's why the Brummond pyrosulfatol, starring combination works is the most effective we have now today in wheat. And then in soybeans, I don't know for you guys, but in Griggs County, I'm pretty confident not only do we have Grig 4 resistance, not only to the cereal rates, but I believe that dicamba has failed in extend soybeans.
We have had some fields where I have not been happy with that. And a lot of it is, how do you spot resistance in kosher? How do you spot growing resistance in kosher? I call it the 3s. You got the dead, you got the dying, and you got the healthy. They're going to be within 3 feet of each other. You got the dead, the dying, and the healthy. You are on your way.
And more to guarantee that is if you have a dead plant that's above the labeled height, like 6 or 8 inches. If you have a 6 to 8, 10 inch dead kosher plant next to something that you just described, then almost guaranteed.
So look for the dead, the dying, and the healthy. That's what I look at when I'm looking at resistance. I get out these fields, these kosher fields in June. That pretty much always tips me off. And then we start going back on history of herbicide use, what we got going here, trying to figure out the program.
Next 4, we're going to talk about are all in the pigweed family. First is Palmer amaranth. It is the gold standard of weed resistance. A single plant can produce 1 to 1.8 million seeds. If you have this, make sure to contact us right away, but leave it in the field. Do not bring it to us, don't spread it, we will come and see it.
We have basically, we have 3 pigweed species in Walsh County. We have Ritter pigweed, we got Paul amaranth, and we got Traci pigweed. And we also have water hemp. My knowledge, I've not been able to identify this weed, although quite frankly, I'm getting pretty good at water hemp. Water hemp, in my opinion, I don't know how you feel about it, but you got tough water hemp. What's the
There is no difference between Palmer and water hemp as far as management.
Yeah, right.
Because they have the same types of resistance.
Right.
I mean, the only difference is the size of the plant. Palmer amaranth can get in the competitiveness that it has compared to water.
It's bigger than water.
But I mean, I've seen some really monster water hemp plants over my lifetime, and there's really no difference. And unfortunately, the water hemp is more prevalent, more common, more frequent than the Palmer.
If you like them, we have the chart. I would throw this in my tractor and bring it with me when I'm out scouting. The weed that's really coming out in Walsh County is Poe. Simply because it gets identified as red or pigweed. And I got a couple corners of pivots up in the Edinburgh area that just chock full of this stuff. And it's resistant to glyphosate for sure. Because they're using glyphosate soybeans and it wasn't working for them. But I would suggest, my notes and stuff are over there, I suggest you pick that up, know the difference water hemp, for me, is really easy to spot. It's got a real narrow leaf and it's got a really dark color.
No hair.
No hairs, and the redwood pigweed has hairs.
And now.
Powder also. That's why powder and redwood pigweed is so good. Good to look at it. That's the way that would go. But there you go.
Water hemp, we need to use pre-emergence on this one. There's many different options while they still work on page 115 of the weed control guide, and there's some post ones on 117.
I think we just talked about this. It's just Palmer and the water hemp are bad much the same way. They have a lot of the same issues, a lot of the same growth patterns. But the key to this weed, in my mind, is to get into your fields when it first starts coming up. And, you know what? I don't know. At some point in time, do we bring back a rotary hoe on some of these weeds? I don't know. No, I don't know. Not
for that. Timing is wrong because it emerges into June.
Well, yeah, you could probably get some, but not all. If it's something you can flip up, you gotta try to see.
Yeah, this is very difficult to manage.
Redwood pigweed, know the difference between this one and the other pigweeds. We said we got a handout that there's differences kind of between all four of them. This one has hairs on the stem, so relatively easy to control.
But what you'll find, I don't believe I've ever seen water hemp where there wasn't redwood pigweed somewhere. They just come.
And now.
Well, not so much pollen. I see redwood pigweed and water hemp go hand in hand.
I'll see all three.
Really? Okay. Maybe
all three in my county side by side.
Maybe I'm not smart enough to pick out the Paul best stage.
all three are in Griggs County by each other.
I have seen this in Nelson County. This is the one I know best to identify.
So there you go.
Last one is Powell, most often mistaken for redwood pigweed. If you have redwood pigweed, you're most likely not controlling Powell. Like you said earlier, just finding it at corners of irrigation pivots and Walsh.
I keep telling my producers, I said, you pick up that pamphlet, but if you've done your redwood pigweed control and you're not getting redwood pigweed, you're controlling redwood pigweed, you probably don't have redwood pigweed, you probably don't know. That's what I tell them. Bring it in. Now, the thing is, if you've got water hemp, I don't want to see you throw that in the back of the pit and drive around for 3 days. Leave it in the field. We're gonna flag, we're gonna ID it, and we're gonna try to help you get rid of it. Okay? I don't want that rolling around.
Just remember, the reason Iowa and Illinois soybean fields were clean in the 70s and 80s because they walked the fields to hand weed. If you don't hand weed the water hemp and kochia with your minor problems, you're only going to have future problems. The only true solution we have to kochia and water hemp, and if you unfortunately have farmer it's the only solution that's effective.
They managed to clean up some really tough areas down in Mississippi, Nebraska, Kansas, and that's because, like you say, and that probably cost us $5,000-6,000.
Well, it doesn't have to when there's one planting.
I know, but if you get bad enough,
right?
That's when you get it. That's when you get it. Not when you have a hole in it. We were down south of Nebraska, and there was actually field. One guy told me a story is that the landlord actually got a field back because of the water hemp in the amaranth, and he couldn't get anybody to rent it. In fact, the landlord had to pay somebody to rent it to control the water hemp before he could get money. Okay, that's how that was. Okay, I think we're on time here. There's CCAs up there, and there's handouts over there. Pick them up. Thank you.